What is going on, guys? Craig1287 here, bringing you some Warframe gameplay because this is going to be a sort of a... That's just a nice view. It's just going to be sort of a kind of a beginner's guide to Warframe. Not going to be covering all sorts of tips because there's just a lot to go on in this game, but these are just some things that I find that you might, well, be interested in. Shut up, lady. So this is going to be a mix of some actual aspects into ranking up your character, but also some of the movement things and just some cool tips. So yeah, let's get right to it. There's a lot of movement stuff in this game. You can do all sorts of things. Well, you can sprint. You can, while sprinting, and I'm just going to say whatever these things are because I don't know what your guys' key bindings are. I've changed a lot of things from my key bindings to, from melee to crouch. So your things might be different. So while you are sprinting, if you hit crouch, you will go into a slide and keep sliding until your momentum dies off or until you release the crouch. And you can slide and slide and slide. And that is actually a very good thing to use. When you start out, you will have very little stamina. If you look up in the top right, you'll see a green bar, a tiny little green bar, and it's starting to reduce as I'm doing this. As you jump, sprint, do things like melee, that will reduce. And there's a when you first start a character, that's going to be very low. You're not going to be able to sprint very long. So a good little tip is to figure out how to do the sliding sprint. I don't know what to call this. Sliding sprint technique. And you'll notice that I'm losing very little stamina while doing this. In fact, I've gained back most of my stamina. And if you just get the timing right on this into how long to sprint and then dash, you can do this just indefinitely, and it's a great way to get around area if you get stuck and lag behind some of your teammates if you're doing some co-op, which you should be. This is a good way to catch back up and exterminate when you kill everything and now you just have to get to the end. This is a great way to just speed up the whole process, and you can pretty much keep up a good pace, good momentum, and never ever run out of sprint. Alright, so moving on, there's some other cool things. You can do a jump and crouch after sprinting to do that flying kick. Not only does this help you to get around and get over objects like getting over railings, things like that, but it's a good thing to get around, but it can melee people down. It doesn't do any damage, but it will knock over heavier characters such as ancients for the infested and things like that. They can get really annoying, and it knocks them down, temporarily making them very vulnerable, but they can't attack you. So disruptors are not going to be stealing your energy if you're trying to melee them, things like that. All right. Now, when you're doing that, you can actually chain them together. You can start to do a slide, a jump, and then a slide, and then if I had a longer path, you could just chain these things together, and it looks really cool, it's fun, and it's a good way to knock down lots and lots and lots of people. You've also got some wall runs. There's a lot of things like these stashes right there that you can only get in certain areas, and they'll be high up. This game is full of hidden secrets, and so you just want to run up to a wall and hold spacebar. And as long as you hold the spacebar down, you'll keep running up again until you lose your momentum. So you can release spacebar early and do your backflip, or you can just run up the whole wall and then eventually lose the momentum and slide or glide down. And then release the spacebar and you'll do your flip. And so that's one of the things. You can also do wall runs, which if I find a flat enough surface, I could do a wall run, but I don't think I've got a flat enough surface, so we'll just use lockers. And that's a wall run. And it uses up sprint, but you get a nice little jump right at the end, a good leap. So if you come across any caverns, any gaps that you need to traverse, just do this and you'll leap across, and you can even do a little Liu Kang kick to follow it up if you don't run out of stamina. You can do this, leap, and do that. So it takes a bit to get used to, and obviously it's very hard to explain. All these things happen very quick, so just rewind the video if you need to. And those things are really great to get to some of these secret hidden spots that that some of these little stashes and lockers are hidden around at. Alrighty, just going to take another look at some of these, wall run and things of that sort. So there's a lot of times where you'll see columns close to like this together, or it could be a hallway. As long as you've got this about this much distance between things, you can do a wall run, backflip and just keep wall running up. And of course, if this were higher, there might be a secret or something of that sort at the top, and you would do this all the way up if it kept going. And you can even then chain this with a wall run that goes horizontally like that, and that's good ways to get up all the way of something and then launch yourself all the way across the room. Another good example of this horizontal wall run is, look, I've just got a tiny little bit like that and a giant gap like that, and if I get this correct, which I did not, should probably come at more of an angle, and then look, with that tiny little bit of horizontal wall space, I was able to leap across this entire thing. You just got to make sure you come at a good angle and leap across. And look, I got up to here. So, and there will be things like this that get you to secrets that are hidden about this game. There are just tons of them, especially in the voids. So try to master that. Just work on it, and you'll start finding all sorts of crazy things that are hidden around these levels. Alright, moving on. Now we have the melee aspect. Now you've got your standard slashes that, of course, the speed at which you swing and the way in which you do swing are dependent on what type of weapon you have, whether it's a blunt weapon, a blade, you could have two weapons, all sorts of things like that. And then, aside from the standard slashes, you've got your charge-up attack, which deals more damage, but of course you're vulnerable while charging, and it on most weapons gives you a wider arc. Like on these, you can slash multiple people because I've got the two different blades. It has a wide arc. But there's a lot of things that you can do with them that involve that all that movement stuff. While it's sliding, you can do the melee, and you do kind of a 360-degree turn. You slide, melee, and you do a 360-degree turn. It's also a good little speed boost. So you got to make sure you time it right. If those are the enemy right there, I'm going to want to slide and trigger it early so that by the time I actually do the 360-degree turn, I'm smacking it and not flying past it and swinging around here, missing them. It's a good way to take out kneecaps. Now, you can do the kick like that and do the melee. And it'll do a similar thing to the slide. You do the jump, kick, and melee, and you do the slide. If you're trying to get over objects, it is again a good way to keep in the air. Do that, and that, and see, I cleared it. I didn't get stuck on it. Alright, so all sorts of good stuff. You can even do just a typical jump in the air and melee, and you'll do a downward thrust. This is a good way to knock things down. It doesn't do that much damage, but it does deal AoE, area of effect damage, just again, not that much. And it is, of course, dependent on each weapon. Each weapon has different stats for its charge and its downward thrust charge, which is that. That's also a good way to get down staircases and high places. If you're up there and you want to jump down, you're going to do the combat roll once you land, and things like that. So it's a good way to just, at the very top, do this. You'll go straight down, and it's in some cases typically a faster recovery than the combat roll like that. Just depends on the situation. Now, you can mix and match these. You can do the kick, wait for it to end, and then melee. You got to wait for that kick to end, or else you'll do the 360. So you got to time it right. If you are sliding and then hit jump, you'll do a front flip and then hit melee, and you'll do the downward thrust. Again, that is, do the slide and jump while in the actual slide to do the front flip and then a downward thrust. So again, that's a good way. If you've got targets behind that railing, you can tie it all together and you get up and over the object, over this object, and you hit the guys that are, close to this. So you can't shoot through this, but you can leap over and do a quick downward thrust. If you didn't know about this, then you'd be doing this and sliding over, and that would just go right over their heads. So again, another technique. It takes quite a bit of practice, but eventually it can help you to get enemies just quicker. Again, it's all about speed. You want to complete these levels as fast as you can so that you can get on to the next level and keep having fun. Next little bit of advice I have is fairly simple. You'll start the game out with the MK1, I think is what it is, Bratton, the MK1 Bratton. Now what I'm using right here, you see in the bottom right, is the Bratton in 30 because I've got it ranked up to 230. And you can of course polarize these later on, but this is a beginner's guide. We don't need to be getting into polarity crap. This Bratton is different than the MK1 Bratton. This thing shoots faster and does slightly a bit more damage. You can also purchase it solely with credits. It's very cheap, probably around 15,000 credits. I can't remember, it's been a long time and the game has probably changed, but 15,000 credits to get this that shoots a little bit faster and deals a little bit more damage. So go ahead and pick this up as soon as you can. And now we are looking at the map screen. Now this screen, you'll notice I've got a skull over this little icon right here. This is one of the levels. Once you fully complete a planet's missions, this is Earth, there are 11 missions and I've got 11 of them. Once you get all of them, you will gain access to nightmare missions. Now these will just pop up on random missions within the planet's orbit, and they add a slight little extra difficulty. You could have vampire mode where your life is constantly draining and you have to keep killing things to get your life back. There might be a time limit on it. You can have both of those, well, either of those, with the addition of different gravity. Gravity might be lower. It doesn't really add too much of a challenge. It actually kind of helps when you're doing all those moves that I was showing you to boost around the area. You can get across areas a lot quicker, especially if you're Volt. You pop your speed boost ability and you can leap across just entire sections of the map almost. So make sure you complete every aspect and then you can get the nightmare mode. Now what's the point of nightmare mode? You get good stuff out of it. They're dual mods. And these dual mods, what they add isn't exactly as strong typically as the single mods that add that, like reload speed. It wouldn't be as high as a %, but you're getting a second ability, so it might be reload speed and frost damage. So instead of having to have two mods that do one of each, you can have two of these in that one thing, and they do stack. So you could have reload speed, frost damage, and then the dual mod that does reload speed and frost damage. So they stack. So if there's a specific thing that you want, then you can stack it and get more. Just a little handy dandy thing, and you're always guaranteed to get a dual mod at the end of each nightmare match, but of course certain dual mods drop less often than others. And here we are at the loadout screen for the very last bit of tips. Let's go straight into the Warframe. Now, when you go to customize some of the mods, and I don't want to go into this because this is just so complicated of a system that I don't want to put it in this video. It'll be even longer than it already is. Make sure you get things potatoed, that's what it's called, but get that Orokin reactor in there so that this doubles. And this should all be making sense. I'm hoping that this is not that much of a beginner's guide. But now, get this thing right here totally maxed out. They changed the artifact system. It is now the aura system, and then they changed it after they changed it because this now increases your mod capacity. So spend whatever you need. These things drop very rarely, so spend whatever mods that you need to fuse or get any power cells that you need to get this thing maxed out. And you want to have the polarities match because it'll double it. This typically would add 7, but because of the polarities match, it's adding 14. But it increases, rather than all of these things decreasing, your total mod capacity. So get this thing maxed out. That should be of utmost importance. Alright, if you have this potatoed and you have this thing maxed out, that's 14 that it's giving you and it's being doubled. So you can actually have 28 mod capacity on a rank 0 Warframe. This is very important to do to help speed up the process and make yourself not suck from the very start. Alright, very important. And now let's go with what mods you definitely want to have. Well, of course you want your abilities. Do you have to have all 4 of your abilities? No. Wormhole is one of Nova's, this Warframe's, abilities. It's for movement and such. It helps you to get to some interesting places and whatnot. I really don't even use it. I don't even have it upgraded. I do have 3 of my abilities, and I have them all maxed out and in the ability slots so that their polarity cost is half of normal. And then I have my vitality here, which is making it cost more, but as you can see, that's really not an issue right now. I just don't have the mods to upgrade these even more. So you don't have to run all 4 of your abilities. If you only use 2, then use those 2 and save yourself the mod capacity. Starting out, you need every little bit. Once you get to 30, then you can start to pick and choose and be a little more careless. What is the most important mods aside from your ability? You want to stay alive. Yes, dealing damage is nice, and things like flow, constitution, continuity, things like that are going to help, but you're going to want to stay alive. Which are the 4 things that will keep you alive? Redirection, vitality, steel fiber, and fast deflection. This increases your shields, your health. This further pretty much increases your health, and then this makes your shields regenerate faster. I listed them in the order of importance. You're going to want redirection. Shields are the first thing that are typically going to be reduced in any situation. Yes, certain things can get behind it, but 9 times out of 10, your shields are going to be the first thing to get hit. So you're going to want that to be as high as they can so that it's more time till your vitality starts to take a hit. By default, your vitality does not heal. Again, shields do. So that's why you're going to want even more shields, because these are going to regenerate. And even if you do have your vitality regenerating from an aura or an ability, it's not going to regenerate as fast as your shields are, especially if you've got this going. So definitely have shield capacity as much as you can. Upgrade it as often as you can. Then get your vitality up, because of course this is what keeps you from dying. If you're doing vampire missions, you're going to want this up there. And if you're going up against a lot of things that avoid your shield, that completely bypass it, things like poison damage, things that have armor piercing, things like that, you're going to want to have a whole lot of vitality. Then your steel fiber, basically this percent armor is just going to, to keep things simple, it's going to further increase your vitality. That's all you really need to know there. And then fast deflection is the least important of the 4, because it's mostly not to keep you alive longer, it's to keep you able to get back in the fight quicker. So that's just kind of, you don't need to max this out. And if you do need to get rid of it because of something else, you've got these abilities here, and I would normally replace this with something like focus, but it's on one of my other warframes. So it's the least important of the 4, but still very important if you want to keep things action-packed and get right back in the fight as fast as possible. Guys, I hope this helps you to get started and to make some decent decisions and stay alive. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you want some more Warframe, please post it in the comments or send me personal messages on YouTube, anything of that sort, and tell me what you would like to see. Hope you guys enjoyed this gameplay and this guide. Have a good one. Ta-ta.